Greetings all, Ferrari Man 601 here. Welcome back to Flight Simulator 2020, and welcome to Nellis Air Force Base, Las Vegas, Nevada. Those of you who have been avid flight simmers for decades will undoubtedly know what the allusion to Nellis Air Force Base is all about. Yes, the wonderful combat flight simulator Jane's USAF from all the way back in 1999. In that game, you got to fly a whole bunch of, well, basically Vietnam through Desert Storm era fighter jets, and you were based at Nellis Air Force Base. So that's where we are. The runway numbers here, in terms of the runway headings, have changed somewhat in the last 20 years, though. 22 right used to be this runway. Now it is 21 right, and that is due to the drift of the magnetic pole. However, we're here today with the Cessna Citation Longitude, as the engine nacelle here would very skillfully point out. And what we're doing here today is actually a viewer request. This is not a video that I had intended to do, but I got a viewer request from a longtime friend of the channel to do a flight over the Grand Canyon. And initially I was thinking about this, and I did some reconnaissance flights around the area, but I've not actually gotten to the canyon yet, so I haven't been able to see it. But I realized that the distances out here are way longer than meet the eye when you look at a map, especially coming from me, having spent my entire life in the very metropolitan and highly developed East Coast. Distances between major locations are pretty small in actuality. The Grand Canyon itself is like 190 miles around. So just to fly around the Grand Canyon in a prop plane or even a turboprop plane would take a considerable amount of time. To get there, we've got to fly about, I don't know, probably, 100, probably 100-something miles just to get there from Nellis Air Force Base. So I figured, let's take a jet. Let's take something that has a maximum speed of over 400 knots. So that's what this is. The Citation Longitude should be good enough for us to do that. And I've got to say, hats off, Microsoft, another absolutely fantastic exterior and interior model on this thing, at least to the point where we can explore it. You morph inside the plane, and all of a sudden, yeah, all that illusion of an interior space disappears, but you can see that they've created the visual cues of there being an interior with clever use of shaders and whatnot. You can even see the refraction of the windows going through the window closest to us. That's absolutely crazy what they've managed to do here, but that's what we're doing here today. Grand Canyon, fly around, and I don't know, we'll see what the winds are like. We might even be able to get into the canyon. But real-world conditions here in terms of time of day and weather, you can see that it is basically cloudless in the late afternoon here over Las Vegas. And obviously we'll be crossing into Arizona in order to get into the canyon proper. But we're cold and dark here on the runway. We have to fix that situation. So we will get some electricity going on here. Like we have got our cockpit alive. We got to get some engines up. Got some start power here first from the APU. We'll get that fired up. And outside, hear the APU starting up. And it sounds like the APU is running. Do we have any heat shimmer out the back here? Doesn't seem like it. Nope, but the APU is running. We'll confirm that in the cockpit, but it sounds like it's up to full RPM. And indeed it is. APU generator on. Shut down the batteries. We've got bleed air from the APU now. Be able to get the engines up here. Engines into the run position. Fuel shutoff valve is open. We'll close our button guards. We'll get our engines started up. We'll start them both at once. We've got N2 RPM. Right. Go outside and listen to the engines fire up for the heat shimmer. There we go. That's cool. I really like that. You can see the refraction quite obviously as the heat is changing the air density. What's that do to the image of the sun, I wonder? We get the camera in the right position. I'm just having fun with this. Yeah, have a look. The whole image is getting refracted through there with the distortion. Everything gets distorted through that heat layer. That's absolutely fantastic. Real-time calculations going on with this rendering. That's remarkable. I love things like that. We have a proper atmosphere simulator. Wild. But anyway, looks like we've got two engines that are up. We got into at 62.6%, and one is at 19% on both. We got throttle. We've got throttle. Good. We got fuel flow. Look at our flaps coming down to takeoff position here. I'll give it notch 2 on the flaps. That's fine. We do have a flight plan going into McCarran, which is Las Vegas Airport. We're going to fly out. We're going to turn left off a runway, which is going to be roughly east. And I want to take a look at the Hoover Dam. Be roughly toward the lower right of the screen. And we'll continue to fly out roughly east to get to the canyon area. Should be fine. We will get our generators on from the engines. Should be able to shut off our APU generator now and be able to shut down the APU. Now running off of engine power exclusively, and that's fine. I'm going to get, I don't know if we're going to need it, but I'm going to pre-select an autopilot heading of 120 just to get ourselves set up. I'm going to get an altitude select here of, call it 12,000 feet. We do have preset altitude in here at our barometric pressure now, 1865 or so ground level. So we are well above MSL, and should be fine. VS is inactive here for the autopilot, but it should be fine. Avionics power, believe, is on. I don't think there's a separate breaker for that. And that should be fine. Let's release parking brakes. We'll throttle up. And engine stabilized. And that's full throttle. 40 knots. 60, 70, 100. That's 120. Probably a decent V1. And we're up. Positive rate. Gear up. Bringing our flaps in. Throttle our engines down. We're out into the red line area in terms of ITT. Yeah. Okay, I am going to tune to McCarran Tower, and we'll just stay on that frequency, because now we are going to make our turnout. We're in our turnout. I want to get over to the Hoover Dam before we go to head over the canyon or so. One, 2, 0, roughly. It's 1, 2, 1. I want to get our autopilot master. Probably should have looked at this beforehand. $6,400. So our flight directors. Yeah, that's just a preset altitude. AP master right there. 6,400 is where I want to remain in terms of altitude. Heading is 136. Let's get our heading dialed back in at 120. And we're getting there. We will head back out to our external views in a moment. I just want to make sure that we're reasonably on course. That's fine. A little bit of buffeting here from the mountain ranges out there. Yeah. It's very forbidding terrain. Something that's entirely different from what I'm used to, being basically a city dweller. We don't have this sort of vast expanse of emptiness. Go outside and just see what this looks like in mid-afternoon. Sun starting to set a little bit lower. Flaps in the rest of the way. Airspeed is just about where I want it. Las Vegas fades into the distance behind. And right here is Lake Mead. Lake Mead is a man-made lake. It's created in 1935 with the completion of the Hoover Dam. All this area, of course, would have looked just like all of this area in the past, just basically desert. But now it is the largest freshwater reservoir in the United States. Supplies water for Las Vegas, quite obviously. Places in New Mexico, I think, the Albuquerque area, Phoenix, Arizona, other places in Nevada, Henderson, cities like that. We are getting a bit of buffeting up here, though. Some surface level winds interacting with the mountains all around. I do believe coming up directly ahead, it's going to be roughly the area of the Hoover Dam. Pull the engines back a little bit more. We'll get the flaps down to touch. We'll start to control that airspeed a little. Autopilot's got the heading and the altitude squared away, but I am still managing the engines, getting some speed control here. That's wild. What I really like, one of the things I really like, the water. You can't tell what's sky and what's ground in terms of what's up or down when you just look directly at the water. That's just wild to me. I believe the dam is over to our left. I'm going to disconnect the autopilot and go back to our external view. Let's make a gentle turn over to our left. Or is that the dam over that way behind us now? There is some sort of road, a bridge. I don't think that's the dam area, though. It just doesn't quite make sense to me. We'll take a look at both of them. Why not? Flaps back in. Once I do locate the dam, I'll have my bearings, and then we'll know which way we need to go to get to the Grand Canyon. But obviously you can see the water table of Lake Mead. It's extended quite a bit out there toward that northeasterly and later northerly direction. There is a road back there, though, a bridge of some sort. So that's another candidate area. Obviously, where the dam is, there's going to be a sudden drop in the water level. So that doesn't seem like it. Well, I mean, could be because it creates the lake, and then they will control the level of the lake partially by controlled releases from the dam, but not here, I don't think. We bark up the wrong tree, perhaps, yeah. I know we're in a general area, though. There is just some fantastic eye candy going on here, and even right here below the wing, you can see the shadows starting to be cast from the terrain into the water and down toward the bottom of the lake, the shallows right by the shoreline. That's cool. Definitely getting some Grand Theft Auto 5 vibes going on. Some similar terrain to the northern area in that game, and then, of course, flying this jet. Graphics are that good. Pretty wild. It's a riverbed. That's interesting. You're disregarding all of the low-level flight rules in terms of going below 10,000 feet and exceeding 250 knots. I just want to find the damn dam. Still think it's back that way. Basically opposite to where we are now. But we do have interesting terrain nonetheless. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is back that way because getting a better look at the land here. I'm looking at a real-world map in real time. Matching it up to what we see in the cockpit. Yeah, we have gone too far, but I do see where we've gone to, and it's interesting. Have gone a bit too far. So we'll hang a turn around. Looks like Mars out there. It's looks entirely alien to somebody who's never visited this part of the world. No sign of life out there at all. No civilization, no nothing. Went into the sun. Look at that reflection coming off of the lake. That's spectacular. And of course the sun there. Brilliant. Rolled off roughly the heading I want. .258 autopilot master heading. Altitude. Okay, let the controls go. Start descending me. Let's do 2,000 feet a minute. Idle the engines. Keep an eye out the window. Keep an eye outside, actually. That's just spectacular, though. Love it. I know we're supposed to be finding the canyon, but I'm just having so much fun looking at this little area. I don't know if I'll ever get to visit this part of the world, and I certainly don't think I'll ever be able to fly over it like this. So for the closest I'm likely to get, it's pretty cool. It really is. That's a little bit more engine power here. There was that interesting structure. It definitely looked like a bridge carrying a road through here that we saw from much higher, or much lower down, rather. That'll be interesting. Maybe. Get a peg on where we are map-wise. We still got some time before we get to what I strongly suspect the area of the dam is. You can't see my cursor, but you see where Bravo Lima Delta is? The beacon marker. Roughly picture the width of a mouse cursor, just the arrow. Picture about 3.5, 4 cursor widths to the right, where you see that little leg of the lake and then the river. That's where the dam is. I know that. I know that from the maps. Pictures I've seen of the dam in real life, though, I don't know. They almost make me think that there's more of an opening past it. But then again, I don't know. We are below 8,800. We do have to watch out for these high ridges here. Because again, I'm getting altitude above sea level. Altitude above ground level, AGL, is a very different story when you've got mountainous terrain, and CFID, controlled flight into terrain, is a very real possibility out here. All right, autopilot is leveling us off at 7,500. We got plenty of margin to the terrain, no problem. Getting back into the area where I'm pretty sure the dam is. Gonna come off autopilot. Can I disconnect? want to disconnect my trim from the autopilot. Okay, so you see that structure? Roughly 12 o'clock, right where the lens flare is. That's what I'm very suspicious of at the moment. Start to get my flaps down. We can bleed off a little bit of speed. I don't want to use the spoilers. But that structure is obviously a bridge of some sort. Or is that an incomplete rendering of the dam? All right, spoilers coming out a bit here. That is the dam. That is the dam. It was right there. Look at that. Of course we wouldn't see it from this angle because we're above it. There's the dam. Ha! And that bridge that was above the dam. Okay, gotcha. I would love to take a look at it, but I am concerned about the terrain. Okay. We are okay. I know that landing gear warning is getting very annoying. I want to take a better look at the dam when we can. We'll flip back around. Got to get a bit of airspeed. That landing gear caution comes when we bring the flaps past 7 degrees. Yeah, it's an angle of attack stall, I know. Got a very severe bank angle, almost 90 degrees. Trying to get this thing turned around. So that would explain it, because we were above the level of the dam. So of course we wouldn't see it. But that's where it is. Hoover Dam finished in the late 30s. Flaps coming out all the way. We're well above our maximum flap speed here, but you can see how quickly the speed bleeds off. A steep dive like this, it really is beneficial to have flaps out. Get our engines spooled up a little bit so they'll respond when we really need them. But there is the bridge. Getting a lot of canyon winds now buffeting the airplane. And there's the dam. Look at that. That's so cool. That is so cool. This is probably a good thing to practice going through the canyon. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculously cool. I like that. Of course, in this sim, the lower you go, the more terrain detail is rendered. So you see when you get real down low here, the entire landscape just changes. Look at all the colors you get. It's wild. All right, we really got to fly up out of here now. Definitely something that flies a bit slower. Be better for taking a look at that. That's just fantastic, though. I mean, you don't see this detail from high up. That's nuts. See just how severe all of the terrain is around this part of the world. And you can see we're at 4,100 feet indicated. Again, that's above sea level, and we're below the height of these ridges around us, so, you know, you want to be careful about that. Big power now we need. Get some airspeed up. Fly up over the ridge. There's the airplane shadow. Got that. We're getting picked up in some big air currents over the ridge, and then we'll get a partial vacuum on the backside, I would suspect. Yep, there it is. Wow, look at that. That's buffeting. That's a lot of buffeting, and of course we're very nearly over speed. That's wild. I like that a lot. Okay, back to navigation. We need to head to where exactly? Dixie National Forest, Grand Canyon National Park. I'm just taking a look at my real-world map here. Tonopah, we've moved too far away. We need Grand Canyon National Monument. Okay, so we need to head roughly east, northeast. So that'll work. We need to get some altitude. We need to get, first of all, we need to get our bearing right. So I'm going to head out at 060, and I'm going to get some altitude here. Let's go up to 18,000. Autopilot master, get me 18,000. And get my heading figured up here. Alright, autopilot has the controls. Why is the autopilot not working? Autopilot did not take command as I wanted. I've selected 18,000 feet. Pull us out of the dive. Autopilot's engaged. Come on. The trim gonna come back in? Okay, nose is coming down by itself. I want my heading now. Come on. Give me heading. That's just phugoid motion. I'm ordering more vertical speed and the airplane's not responding. It's not giving me... Now the friggin' autopilot engages. What the hell? Okay, bring the nose back down. Get my bearing set. Okay. That's a bit better. Get me to... Okay. My heading is... Yeah, okay. The heading was not reset after I did that. I hit it to synchronize. 060 is what we said we wanted. We'll get it in a moment. Okay, I am now all organized and satisfied with where we are. So obviously, starting to fly away from Lake Mead went a little bit farther to the south of it than I wanted, but that's okay. And you can start to see the terrain starting to change. Want a bit more airspeed. Firewall the engines for the moment. Don't care about the fuel consumption. Still got plenty of gas. I am not super familiar with this airplane. I've probably flown it for less than an hour. Just fly the airplane on the throttles. To be careful, I don't want to overstress the aircraft. That'll be the end of our day in a hurry. Starting to get into some very, very jagged terrain here. Where are we? Okay. Starting to get into the Grand Canyon Parashant National Monument. If I fly just a little bit south relative to our current position, we'll get right over Grand Canyon National Park, which is where I ultimately want to end up. So we will head more in an easterly direction. We'll head due east. GS is 443 and counting down a bit. All right, there we go.
Landing gear.
Look at this, folks. Look at all that. That's cool. That's just utterly spectacular as the frame rate drops into the toilet. But look at all this. It's very difficult to judge altitude. I know the canyon itself is about a mile deep at its lowest point. So roughly sea level. So we could assume that a lot of these mesas are at least 5,000 feet high. So that would give us a little bit of a reference of what our altitude is. Let me be very not cautious. Let's do an altitude disconnect. Let's just disconnect the entire autopilot system.
Landing gear.
And we'll just start to drop and see what we can see through here. Just a ton of scarred earth as far as the eye can see. Again, I will never, most likely, get the opportunity to see this in reality, so. Wow. And again, it's all a simulator. It's insane. And I estimate probably got about an hour and a half or so of daylight left. It's based on the sun angle. That's wild. Canyon winds are going to be a little bit scary. I'm just sort of getting myself psyched up for that. We're falling at 8,000 feet a minute and accelerating. And the terrain's starting to create some frame losses here. 10,000 feet per minute will be in the ground in about 30 seconds if we continue to do this. I commanded a spoiler retract. All right, had to do it again. All right, our radio descent's coming down. That landing gear warning, unfortunately, is going to keep talking here as long as we've got our flaps down to 15 degrees. Slowing it down as much as we can. Look at this. The canyon walls there with the textures. That's nuts. All of those different platforms and ridges and things. Caused by millions of years of geologic activity, mostly erosion due to the water in the river coming down through the bottom of the canyon. Flaps all the way down now to 35 degrees. This is nuts. Just pull those engines up because you don't want to stall in here. That'll be the end of your life. Lots of turbulence. The audio call-outs you hear in terms of the altitude, that's our altitude above ground level. That's nuts. Ooh, man. This is insane. I wonder if anybody's ever flown a twin-engine corporate jet down through the canyon before, because that's where we are right now. Nuts! And also you can see, relatively speaking, how much more jagged the terrain becomes the lower down in the canyon you get, because the time scale kind of works in both directions here. The lower you go, the more recently this part of the canyon would have been carved out, because obviously you have gravity constantly pulling the water down toward the center of the earth, and of course water always flows downhill. However, the higher up the canyon you get, like toward where it's widest up at top there, that obviously was carved out the longest ago, and those are rapids down there. Not animated or anything, but wow. More rapids coming up. Shut up, landing gear horn. I wish I could silence that, but I can't, and I'm not going to go back in the cockpit now. No way I'd fly this from the cockpit. This is external Grand Theft Auto view stuff. It's wild. There's the sunlight. Wild. Lots of turbulence. Coming into a bit of a funnel here. I don't feel so good about this. The engine power. Stall speed is 140 knots. Well, probably not quite stall speed, but it's out of the green zone, I tell you that much. So we're getting awfully close to my minimums in terms of where I want to fly. Just to shut the landing gear off, I'm going to lower the landing gear. Gear is down. That is going to hurt our maneuverability a little bit as the frame rate drops really low. Look at this. It's wild. going to impose a 180 knot speed limit with our gear extended. So we got to maintain our speed between 140 and 180 as best we can. Need some power. Going around this turn like this, our angle of attack is going to get pretty steep. Wow! Terrain starts to get a bit more sandy. And you can see our altitude here is still over 2,000 feet. And I'd estimate just visually we are about, I don't know, 300 feet off the deck relative to the river. A whole lot closer than that relative to the ridges here. Looks like the ground starts to open up a little bit here. But look at this. This has all got to be, in my very amateur geology brain, starting to come into effect here. This all got to be relatively recent in terms of geologic history that all of this was created. It couldn't have been eons ago. Probably less than 100 million years, which sounds incomprehensibly huge, but you know, the dinosaurs were still around 60 million years ago. I mean, 65 million years, the Chicxulub event, but it's not likely that all the dinosaurs died in that one single event. So 60 million, 50 million years, maybe some dinosaurs were still around. A few isolated survivors someplace, yeah. So I'm going to say the Grand Canyon was forming around the time that we still had dinosaurs. And they've been gone for 65 million years, but I mean, also 65 million years ago you had things like alligators, which are still very much around today. So yeah, not all that long ago in the grand scheme of things. Relative age of the Earth, roughly 5 billion with a B years. Sorry, fundamentalist Christians, but it's not 5,000, it's more like 5 billion, if not older. So in that sort of time scale, this happened last week. Look at this, little tributaries coming down with rain runoff. Nuts, absolutely friggin' nuts, the amount of detail that you get through here. And I am keyed up like you can't believe flying through this. Like this is a hot lap in a Formula One car around the Nordschleife right now. That is the level of attention that I am paying to everything. You got to look so far out ahead, and you got to plan ahead as far as you can see, because you need that engine power, and the engines don't respond instantaneously, so you better make sure they're spooled up before you absolutely need them. And canyon winds here, the turbulence. I'm just applying very small and smooth control inputs to our aerodynamic surfaces. All the bouncing around you see with the plane, that's all turbulence. Going to retract the landing gear and really throttle those engines up, because I can't see around this bend, and we may have to get out of Dodge quick. Yeah, that was a smart decision. But still, you can see where we are, and you know, this continues for hundreds of miles throughout this whole area. Insanity.
Landing gear.
More turbulence here as we get higher up and the upper level winds start to come in. We are at 3,000 feet above sea level, remember. Canyon floor starts to open up a bit more.
Landing gear.
Drop our gear again to silence the gear warning. Got our flaps all the way out. That is utterly majestic. Look at that. I can hardly believe that this is a simulator. Unbelievable.
500.
Remember our gear speed limits. See, when you're flying low enough in the canyon like this, you don't get all that much wind shear or turbulence, whatever. Look at how the river starts to turn red here with the sediment. That's cool. But when you start to get toward the upper rim, that's when the wind from what is to that part of the canyon, the surface, that's when the wind coming across the landscape relatively unimpeded, that's when it starts to come in, and that's when you get the buffeting. Do a straight bit and then a corner I can't see around. So we're going to throttle up, going to retract the gear,
Landing gear. Landing gear.
fly out of the canyon.
Landing gear. Landing gear.
This is wild. Look at that. That's so cool. So friggin' cool. Got our flaps up. Plane just sort of floating up on the effect of the flaps there. We'll get our airspeed up. We'll fly out of the canyon. We're going to exceed the speed limit below 10,000 feet inside the canyon. Look at that. Look at that. 270 knots. 300 knots. Almost over speed. Let's continue to fly out. Throttles. Look at this. Due north. Sending at 12,000 feet per minute, 13,000 per minute. Look behind us. We flew through that. Huh. Is that wild or what? As far as the eye can see, you've got that sort of terrain. Unbelievable. Okay. So now that I'm reasonably happy we're not going to fly into a cliff, let's get our eye point back in the cockpit for a moment. Autopilot master on. We'll synchronize to current heading, and we will synchronize to current altitude here. I want 12,000 on our altitude ordered here. I want... Alright, vertical speed coming back up. Heading is synchronized to our current heading. I need to zoom out of our MFD where the map is. And we need to see... Okay, Lake Mead, Las Vegas. Alright. Let's get our airplane turned around. Heading select is on. We got a left turn coming up. Good. Speed. Selected airspeed. You gonna give me an airspeed select? I don't want to switch to Mach units. I want you to let me select an airspeed. Gonna give me auto throttles anywhere. It's an approach hold FLC mode, which I'm not entirely sure about. Okay. Forget the speed hold. We can fly it on the throttles. I want a bit more of a turn. Got ourselves pointed toward McCarran again. Not quite. I want to intercept our path into McCarran. We'll head back over Slots Vegas, as the Rugrats once said. Yeah, whatever. 150. Bit bumpy up here again. I have no altitude control on the autopilot. Whatever, bring me up to 15,000 and entered. Okay. 15,000, please and thank you. Come on. Show me vertical speed coming up. Come on. Roll me out of the turn first or what? I think it is. Uh-huh. Alright, we're starting to intercept our path to McCarran again. That's fine. Getting some buffeting. Autopilot is not doing what I want. I don't know why. Okay, gotta dial in vertical speed for some reason, which I find to be ridiculous, but that's okay. Okay, coming back in on our ground trek. Fine by me. Anyway, there's the canyon. We'll start to level off at 15,000 feet. And you can see the sun is a-setting. The trim's doing what it needs to do to level us off. That's good. And 65% fuel remaining, got plenty of gas. You know, relatively level the ground is here, and then it just instantly goes into, hey, canyon. Trim coming down to minus 12. Turbulence. Lots of turbulence here. Back off the speed a touch. That's utterly spectacular, though. I love that. I really do. We're on autopilot. We can go to the showcase camera. That's where we were on the ground all those eons ago. An hour ago. Wow. We're an hour into this video. It feels real fast to me. Anyway, there's the airplane. It's on autopilot. It's flying itself. I'm controlling the camera now, and I am not flying the airplane any longer. So the airplane's flying itself, but you can just see Now, the way the autopilot works, it just sort of allows the airplane to sort of float across the air currents as we come through them. And it'll just sort of hover around that cruising altitude a little bit. Not quite fugoid motion like you saw earlier, where I didn't have the autopilot connected and the plane was just sort of climbing and diving on its own as it was finding the airspeed to which it was trimmed. But it's kind of a similar effect happening here, because the airplane doesn't have the control authority needed to maintain bang on the selected altitude precisely, but it gets pretty close, and that's why you see that bouncing around a little bit. But real-time reflections on the wings. That's so pretty. On a tail. There's the heat shimmer effect from the engines again that we took a look at on the ground. Get into that wash here. See what that does to our view out. There are the actuators for the thrust reverser buckets. That's just fantastic. Looking through that heat haze onto the ground. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. We're in a heat haze now. Gorgeous. And there's the sun. 93 million miles away. Bright as ever. A wonderful detail on the wings. There are the spoilers and the flaps. Leading edge of the wing. See some dust on the leading edge that we've accumulated from undoubtedly flying low in the canyon there. That's cool. It's even dispersed across the wing like you'd expect it to be from the onrushing airflow. Service ports here. Lights. Our antennas. Static ports there for air data around the cockpit. That's so cool looking. And there we go. Huh. I've been in the left-hand seat this whole time. Apparently, I'm a woman. I know it's literally 2020, but okay. All right. That's cool. Nice. Very nice. There is the engine. Yes. Spinning away in there. Yeah, you wouldn't want to get this close to a jet engine running at flight power like this. But there it is. There's the fan. Go inside. Ouch. Ow. Ow. Okay, there's the compressor stages, which we can't see. And then the exhaust. There's the thrust reverser buckets inside. Out the back. Oof. Yeah. Look at that. Just a bit of cinematic fun as we fly back toward Las Vegas. Bang on 15,000 feet. Trim's just playing around there. Where are we exactly? Okay, we're coming in. We're intercepting that ground track. 48 nautical miles out from the ground track. I don't want to intercept the ground track exactly. I want to get south of McCarran. And then I want to come in, well, technically speaking. See, I am really, really married to north is up. Which in this case, I suppose it is. And indeed it is, but it is not quite the same, because this is north up. $100 nautical miles. Yeah, north is up. Okay. So yeah, I do want to come in roughly south of McCarran, because we're going to be running on landing on runway 26, I think. 26, right? I mean, we'll select a runway when we call up the tower. Yeah, we're still nowhere near it. Anderson Executive, Nellis Air Force Base. There's McCarran. Tune him up. We'll request full stop. Bit far out, but we'll request it, whatever.
Cessna Alpha Sierra X-Ray Golf Sierra is 43 miles east with Mike to land.
Cessna Alpha Sierra X-Ray Golf Sierra Las Vegas Tower. Make straight and runway 26 right. Altimeter 29.87, wind tree 45 at 6.
Wind is 345 at 6, straight in, 26 right.
Fly straight and runway 26 right, Cessna X-Ray Golf Sierra.
Okay, so 26 right is the correct runway. That is where I want it to be regardless. We are going to be coming in straight in. Fine by me. See, we leave the canyons behind. There's Lake Mead. There's the river, Hoover Dam up that way. %60 fuel, bang on. You see, had we taken the default fuel load of 50%, we'd be in trouble right about now, but we got plenty of time. We could go out to Edwards Air Force Base if for some reason we couldn't make McCarran. That's not going to be a problem. It's going to be fine. You see, we're 35 nautical miles out from our planned ground track, but that was just so that I'd have a marker to aim for coming back toward Vegas if we really got lost, but that wasn't really a problem. What I do want to start doing is making a turn toward the west. We will start to get a bit closer into McCarran. Remember, 26 right is the runway heading. .300 for our selected heading. Because I think we've overflown the field a little bit in terms of our west-east distance. Over that away should be the dam. Believe it is. Can we zoom into there and see it? Terrain's not quite loading up that far with our draw distance. But I'm pretty sure that's it. We saw that before. Down in that valley is going to be Las Vegas. We're all organized again. We know where we are. We know where we need to be. That is a joyous day. Yeah, draw distance on a terrain is not that long. I mean, look at this from that view. We're still probably about 5 miles out from where the dam is, but yeah, that is roughly the location. These things sort of rendering in real time. And already, this is going to be my longest flight simulator video to date. Cool. Eventually, I would like, and it would be pretty boring to be honest because there's not a whole lot to see, but I would like to do a transatlantic video real time. Might be cool to watch. I don't know what I would talk about for 6.5 hours. I might have to wait until we get a Concorde. Could at least do it in 3.5 to 4 if we really got lucky. All right, I want to descend. man, just the amount of interactivity you get with these cockpits. Remember, in Flight Simulator 2004 was the first time that we had virtual cockpits in native aircraft in Flight Simulator, and it was so cool. You hit the F7 or F8 key, it was, and you got into a virtual cockpit, and you could actually use your mouse cursor, or I think it was right mouse button, and drag, just like you can here as well. And I think that's McCarran. No, it's not McCarran. That's the Kilo Hotel November Delta, whatever that strip is. But you could use your mouse to drag the viewpoint around. You couldn't click on anything in most of the planes, but you could look around, and it looked like the cockpit. You put in a control input with the yoke, and you saw the yoke move, and it was cool. But this is on another level. There isn't a 2D cockpit anymore in Flight Simulator. This is the cockpit. And in virtual reality, I would imagine this is trippy, but probably really hard to use, because you got to be able to see your mouse cursor, and you got to be able to see your physical input controls, because you'll mess things up if you're not looking at them. All right. Zoom me in. Give me more of a turn. More. Looking for McCarran, I think. Starting to see things out there. Am I seeing things, or am I seeing... That's Nellis. I think that's Nellis we're looking at. So McCarran's going to be roughly in this area. There's a strip. Okay, we're all organized again, gang. I know where we be. We got to get altitude down real quick. Autopilot command, disconnect. We got to drop. And we got to slow the hell down. Because that's McCarran dead ahead.
Cleared to land runway 26 right. Wind tree 42 at 6.
We got a landing clearance. I'm aware. I've got to control the airplane right now. Come on.
Cleared to land runway 26 right, Cessna X-ray Golf Sierra.
All right, not terrible at navigating with just map knowledge. But now we're way too close into the strip to do this properly. So I'm gonna... Or are we too close? We might be able to do this. 26 right? That's 26 right. Right there. I'm going to bring our flaps out initially.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear.
Yes, I hear ya.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear.
Flaps all the way out.
Landing
Turning on to final.
landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing
Starting to get a little bit of stick shake.
landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear.
Gear coming. I am not at all lined up with the runway. I am fine with that. I see something that looks like a runway. Gear is down. Yep, confirm that on the MFD. That is going to be 26 right. Yep, I haven't flown this approach. Well, didn't fly the approach. I flew whatever the hell I wanted to do. But I haven't flown into this runway for the on FS 2020 yet. Done it on FSX, but never on 2020, and it looks good. All right, getting a little bit of turbulence off of the deck. It's fine. 26 right confirmed. A bit late to confirm the runway, but yes, we did. Flare. And gear down. Speed brakes. We bounced it a bit. That's okay. Thrust reverse. The nose up as long as we dare. Try to maintain center line the best we can. Let the nose come down. All right. It's actually one of the smoother landings I've done so far in one of these videos. Missed that turn off. We'll go to the next one. Idle. I am able, so we are exiting. Let's wait for the ground handoff to get it now. 130.0.
Going to 130.0 Cessna X-ray Golf Sierra.
Fine by me. Get us off of the runway. Sort of get onto the apron here. Let's bring it to a bit of a hard stop, but a stop. Okay, I need APU. Do I? No, I don't. I'll do the batteries. I'm going to shut off our engine generators. Engines are going to stop. Engines are stopping. Fuel flow has stopped. Shut off electrical battery buses off, and the airplane is powered down. And there it is, 1 hour and 18 minutes and 12 seconds. We have got a landing at McCarran, basically returning to where we started. Look how long and distorted and compressed that shadow looks. That looks really unsettling, to be honest with you, but real world, real time calculations. The antennas are casting shadows, landing gear is casting a shadow. Every surface on the airplane that is perpendicular to the sunlight is casting a shadow right now, and that looks weird as hell and probably is going to give somebody nightmares. I'm sorry. Yeah. You see, when I was a kid, I was very sensitive to strange visual patterns. It was a thing, and grew out of it, but that would have terrified me as a kid. Sorry. So if you are somebody who is affected by that, I apologize, but the way that I look at it is understand where it comes from. I understand that it is a fact of the way that light reflects and refracts, and understanding the physics behind that, to me, became more interesting than the weird things were disturbing, if that makes any sense at all. But you can see the sun just going behind the hill there. If we can control our zoom, look at that. Come on, camera, pan down. Here it is. And you can see the mirage effect as the sun goes below the hillside. It should only take a few more seconds. Look at that. That's so cool. It's trying to simulate the sunlight being refracted through layers of atmospheric heat haze. So you get this sort of puffing smoke effect as the sim's trying to render that effect, but it's that's wild that they would even think to do that amount of detail. But that's the sunset for the most part, still kind of peeking through a little. That's utterly wild. They're able, you know, it looks a little cartoonish, but that's wild. And of course, if we pan the camera down, you can start to see the details with the gates here. well, not the gates, but the taxiway markings. That's so cool looking. And I bet zoom out again and we start to pan over, that weird shadow that we were talking about is now gone. Again, real-time calculations. We were getting a blocking of the light from the distant hillside, coupled with a refraction through the heat haze, I'm sure, and then the light being blocked by the assorted surfaces on the aircraft. That was a little weird. Don't know why that happened just then. Sunset again? It kind of did. That was weird. The Earth's rotation reversed and then sped up again to catch up with itself. But for whatever reason, yeah, there it is. There's our airplane on the ground, back in one piece. Hour 21, hour 22 minutes, just about. Flew around a Grand Canyon. That is amazing. Look at the reflection of the horizon in the paint there. Turn around this way, and then you see it. That's wild. The fact that you have that sort of detail. Makes you really think. It really does. It's so cool. Towing warning. The rest of it legible? It might be if I can get the camera to stop in the right spot. It is. Holy Christ, look at this. Warning, before towing aircraft, ensure that the nose wheel what? Ensure that the nose wheel steering switch is off before attaching the tow bar and remains off during towing operations. On completion of towing or parking, nose wheel must be centered before disconnecting the tow bar, or injury could result to personnel if the nose wheel switch was inadvertently switched to on and the nose wheel returned to center. In other words, hydraulic pressure that would be accumulated up in that hydraulic cylinder to actuate the steering, to pivot this nose gear left and right. The amount of force that would be released when that tow bar would be disconnected could be well enough to throw people probably tens of feet. I mean, because that steering armature has to overcome the weight of a 50,000-pound airplane. So it could well throw a person quite a distance, I would assume. Especially if that energy were all released at once. Wow. But anyway, as the sun fades away here at McCarran, we flew to the Grand Canyon. We flew down into the canyon for a little ways. We saw the Hoover Dam after we got lost initially, but there it was. Very, very, very cool. That's amazing. Awesome stuff. I didn't think that the simulator would perform well here, but it did. Whew. That's cool. Oddly enough, I think this might be one of the coolest videos I've ever done. Just on a subject standpoint. I think commentary here has been awful, but whatever. Maybe there are some silver linings to everything. Anyway, I hope that my longtime friend of the channel got what he wanted. This was cool. Until next time, though, thank you all very much for watching. Ferrari Man 601 saying thanks, and of course, we will see you soon.